This episode of the Shawn Johnson podcast is brought to you by Lone Nicotine Pouches. Lone makes a modern nicotine pouch that's simple, discreet, and easy to use. They're tobacco-free pouches made with synthetic nicotine, meaning no tobacco leaves involved. Just a clean, straightforward option. I use them during long recording days, travel, or anytime I want something low-key that doesn't get in the way. If you want to check them out, go to lonepouches.com and use the code SHAWN10 for 10% off. That's lonepouches.com. Promo code SHAWN10. So today's episode I've been looking forward to for a very long time. Well, not a long time. A few weeks here. I've been talking to my guest across from me, Mike Horn. I've been thinking about it all week on how I'm going to start this podcast because there's so many different UFO alien type of stories out there, but this one is very unique to me. And so I figured, why not just do a quick recap of who Billy Myers is. So take yourself back to the 1940s, and imagine a 5-year-old little boy that has these extraordinary claims that he's being abducted, not just abducted by aliens, but being taught lessons from different alien entities. Okay. Now, fast forward to present day, and this gentleman is in his late 80s and he's still alive. He's in Switzerland, which is why most people have never heard of this case before. And now imagine from 5 years old into, what is he, 88?
88 officially.
88 today. Okay. So 83 years. This guy claims that he's been getting abducted by aliens and being taught lessons from multiple different types of aliens with different names from different stars. I think, are they all from the same star system?
No, actually, there is one main star system for most of them, but he's interacted, according to his information, with some others.
So his entire life, he's being taught lessons, and they're taking him aboard their ships, and I mean, I'll let Mike get into more details when it comes to that. But imagine this, 83 years of taking rides in UFOs with aliens and having deep spiritual conversations, and not just spiritual conversations, but like future prophetic conversations where these aliens are saying, hey, look, this is going to happen on this date. Okay. And to the point where there was so much information that this young boy that then grew into a man started writing novels and getting all of these novels copyrighted because he knew that the public would laugh him out of the room, and he knew that nobody was going to take him seriously. So instead of saying, hey, and let me put this on the news and get laughed at, he started writing it down in books and getting it copyrighted and stamped on those exact dates to show proof that, hey, whether or not this is a conversation with an alien or whether this is me making this stuff up, it is copyrighted. I have proof right here that I wrote this on this date back in whenever. And he wrote novel upon novel upon novel upon novel. And so this was all going on. And, you know, back in the 60s is when the UFO craze really started to pick up pace, right? There was many sightings before, but it wasn't until the 60s in Roswell when it kind of went mainstream and everybody started saying, hey, what are these flying saucers out there? So meanwhile, Billy's been doing this stuff since the 40s. Okay. And so he was kind of in the background doing his thing, writing all these different novels, but it wasn't until more recent history where the prophecies that these entities were telling him started to come true. And one of the ones that struck me the most, and I'll let you get into more detail, Mike, but one of the ones that struck me the most was the 2001 Mars Odyssey. Billy called the 2001 Mars Odyssey, and I don't know what year he wrote that book. Was it in the 80s?
It was like 10 years before.
10 years before
it ever came into existence.
Okay, so like the late 80s, early 90s.
Maybe 91.
91. So Billy copyrights this and says, hey, you know, this alien by the name of this told me that when we go to Mars, it's going to be called the 2001 Mars Odyssey. Fast forward to 2001, guess what they called it? The 2001 Mars Odyssey. So that's one example in a laundry list of a prophetic statements that he made in his novels that have come true. And there's many more to come true in the future. And that's what we're going to get into. So thank you so much, Mike, real quick. So my guest across from me is not Billy Myers. This is Mike Horn. So the thing with Billy doesn't trust a lot of people. And like I said, he's from Switzerland. There's the language barrier. So communication is spotty, right? He speaks German, I believe, and a few different languages, but he doesn't trust anybody. There's been multiple attempts on his life, according to him, and so he's very careful on who he allows into his inner circle, as you could imagine. The gentleman sitting across from me is Mike Horn. This is one of the few people on this planet that Billy trusts with his information. So thank you for being here.
You're welcome, and I like your version of the story. It's very good. I'll fill in a few little details just so you know. Billy has never actually been abducted. He's been voluntarily meeting face to face.
I see.
Just a slight distinction here because the abduction story is pretty ubiquitous these days. Here he is when he was 8 years old. Around this time, it's said that he had the thinking capacity of a 35-year-old adult man. And when you read some of the things that he published, let's say starting at 9 years of age, it's inexplicable that he could have written this as a young boy, but he did. He claims that his first teacher with these people who we have been in the past told were Pleiadians, a race that doesn't exist. It was a screen name they used until the 90s. They are called Plejaren by themselves, Plejaren. And they used a screen name. They had them start to use that in January 28th, 1975, I think. And they said, use this. He says, there's no life in the Pleiades. You're not Pleiades. They said, we know that. You know that. But once you come public with all your information, with the evidence that we're going to allow you to get, help you to get great photos and everything, a lot of people will come out of the woodwork claiming that they are meeting with the Pleiadians, that they are dating Pleiadians, having their babies, etc. He says, well, they said, no, you won't have to ask us every time. When somebody uses that name, you'll know that they got it from your material and just ignore it. So this is the first man that his first contact, experience was, as you said, when he's 5 years of age. He gets what he said was like a telepathic message. He's hearing a man. He's 5 years old, and he's hearing a voice of a man in his head speaking to him in his Swiss German dialect. So he's a little concerned. Some days later, he feels kind of compelled to go outside and play. Beautiful environment. They grow up in the forests and all. Enters the forest, sees a clearing, and there's a pear-shaped craft sitting on three strut-like legs. And standing in front, he says, is this elderly-looking man. He's wearing something that looks like a deep-sea diving outfit, but no helmet. And he said, I felt absolutely no threat from him. He had an overall feeling of benevolence, kindness about him. He beckoned me forward. I came. We spoke a few words. We were entered into this craft on a moving platform, and that began my 11 years of being tutored and taught by this man, being taken around this world, and to see some other places that exist, including the Earth, the moon, etc. So I like to say, according to the information in the case, there are things I cannot prove. There are things anybody can prove. This...
First off,
yes.
Go back to that picture.
Sure.
This is stranger danger right here. If some guy pulls up and said, come get in my UFO.
Yeah.
I'm just joking. He does look a little bit like Santa Claus, though, so I could see why he would jump in.
Yeah. Well, there... Yes. I see it now. I guess I couldn't have seen it before. The beard,
the story, if that was like a creepy van that was driving around, he's like, come get in my van, let me show you some things. It works because he's in a UFO, though.
And it's Switzerland, 1942, and the consciousness is a bit different than inner city or any city these days.
I got some things to teach you.
Yeah, come over here. And fly.
Anyway, sorry to cut you off.
No, it's okay. This is ostensibly his second teacher, a woman named Asket.
And these drawings, did he draw these up?
No. What we're told here, and I know I've met people who did the illustrations, Billy, it is said, receives and can communicate telepathically with these people. They guided him in terms of directing there's two people that work with him who are artists. He was guiding them a little more this, a little less that, overall shape, until they, Billy and the play Aaron, were saying, that's it, good enough.
Okay.
Real, you know. So one of the things about this is we see here, you know, a drawing of a youngish woman. And at about this time, he was 16 years of age, and he was wondering why he suddenly has a female contact person. And they said, well, you're a young man now. We know that the males of Earth are, you know, a little rough and more kindly disposed to interacting with the female. There's no sense of being threatened and all. He said, fine, whatever. So at 21, he has two hands here, typing away. And here's a passport photo in Jordan, 1963.
Yeah. Oh, that's one caveat.
Yes.
Billy only has one arm now.
That's right.
How did he lose his arm?
Lost it in a rather dramatic and brutal bus accident. He was told in advance that it would happen to him, and that was a destiny that was his. They could not interfere with it. I remember speaking with him once, and he said, you know, because it comes up every now and then, people want to know one arm. Why didn't they fix your arm for you if there really exists? So we got into the conversation, and he said, you know, 10 years before I lost my arm, I was in India, and I was on the beach, and I looked over, and there was a family, and there was a man with only one arm, and it reminded me. He said, oh, yeah, I'm going to lose my arm. Nothing I can do. He has an interesting ability. He can compartmentalize when he needs to and move things out of the forefront of consciousness that he had to learn to do. Because certain things, I mean, I wouldn't want to know that I was going to, you know, trip and break a kneecap or something 10 years later. Right. This man is told this will be something you'll have to learn to live with and do everything with one hand.
So this race of aliens, are they time travelers? How do they?
Yes.
Okay.
Now, that's my answer for it, but we will get into establishing how anybody can prove it within about 15 minutes. And this is what, you know, you mentioned ufology and all these stories. In 1953, this woman, Asket, that we just saw the photo, during one of the earliest contacts with her, gave him a laundry list of coming events. They included the assassination of the Kennedy brothers and who would be responsible for killing JFK, etc. But she also said there's an organization that is going to start in about 10 years or whatever it was, and they will become your biggest opponent. They're called MUFON. Ah. Now, interestingly enough, I have had lots of run-ins with MUFON people, but recently, within the last year or so, two different MUFON groups have invited presentation. I'll be doing one in Sedona, Arizona, when I get back home. And there are younger people now who are not bound so much in the belief system about UFOs and want to know the truth. And that is something for which I'm very grateful, because we have tried, I tried to prevail upon the, at the time, the president of MUFON, who I ran into in Dallas. I think it was in Dallas. No, pardon me, Las Vegas. He had come in, and a buddy of mine who lives in Texas was with me, and this guy, we happened to meet in the hallway. And he said, oh, yeah, I know, you're with Billy Meier. He said, yeah. I said, what do you think of that? He says, well, it's just too good to be true. We can't really. And I said, what? He said, well, you know, everything, the evidence is just too clear. And my friend's 6'4" or something, going like this. I said, Blake. He said, yeah, how do you? So I have a video somewhere, I don't have it today, of encountering the guy and saying, hey, are you guys going to look into the Billy Meier case? And there was a whole song and dance there on record. Now there are people in this organization that are looking at this, and it's a little side note, but it's been a long battle.
That was one of my questions for you. I was wondering if they had been in contact with you guys.
Yeah, and look, my opinion after being involved with this, okay, most of ufology, over 90%, is utter nonsense. Not that there aren't things flying around. Most people don't know what they are, where they're from, so there's speculation, theories and all. And to a person, all of the so-called UFO experts to whom I have made sure this material has gone since 2004, refuse to talk about it.
Why?
Because it threatens the cash cow game that ufology is. It's a mixture of disinformation, some accurate information. Nothing of significance is ever revealed by any UFO expert. You've got a Harvard professor, Avi Loeb. I contacted him when the first thing that he was seeing flying around, I sent him all this information. Wouldn't talk about it. As of today, we don't know whether this Atlas 31 or whatever it's called is just a space rock.
Yeah, it's I3. It stands for Interstellar Third Object from Space.
Thank you.
Yeah, in history, recorded history.
What is it? We may find out. It may be a craft that's hidden inside of a large rock. It could be any number of things, but I don't care. I can't do any. I can't even do anything with the best evidence and UFO evidence, which will show. Mm-hmm. It's the information and the teaching that you alluded to, what they called spiritual information. Mm-hmm. I've never liked the term because it had either woo-woo or hyper-religious. So the term actually is creation energy, creational teaching. And be delighted to go into that, but I want people like you and open the door for your audience to know a little more here. So
real quick before you dive back in, I'm just curious, like, what got you started on this path of yours to follow Billy Meier's story? Like, what was the aha moment where you're like, this is real, and I'm willing to dedicate my life to it?
Well, it's several moments on that, but when I grew up in the 40s, so I'm listening to radio shows with space heroes. TV comes along, and I'm seeing these things, and I was instantly taken into that. I would have dreams about fleets of lights moving through the sky. Sorry about that. Won't do it again.
Don't worry about it.
And I felt something of deep interest. I had dreams of standing underneath a disc, and I knew it rotated, and it could move in any direction instantaneously. And then there was a dream of speaking to a man inside this craft, and it was, okay, then I kind of, I'm growing up and growing a little out of it. 1953, maybe 1957, I'm in high school, around 57. I remember exactly where I'm standing. A guy comes over and says to me, I don't know why he talked to me. I wasn't talking about flying saucers at that point. He says to me, my dad's in the Air Force, and he told me that they found a flying saucer, and they took it off to an Air Force place, a base in Ohio, which would have been, that whole Wright-Patterson thing. Mm-hmm. And it's just like I've never forgotten. I know exactly where I was standing in this building. I don't remember the guy. Then there was a young girl, a daughter of my mother's friend. And I reconnected with her briefly. I still am occasionally in touch with her 60 years later. She says to me, do you remember when you told me that you were at a drive-in movie out in Chicago and there was a UFO above you? I said, no, I don't. So, okay, fast forward a little. I'm living in Los Angeles. It's 1979, and I get a feeling I want to go down to this bookstore. It's called the Bodhi Tree. It used to be on this one location. I walk in the door, and it's one step in and facing across, maybe as far away as, a little farther away than you. There's a photo book, picture book sitting right there. And I go, whoa. And I walk over, I open it up, and I start looking through it, and I said, I got to have this. I get this book, and I read. Not only, I had photos that were out of this world, clear. And there's a picture of the guy with this long gray beard, which brings another story to mind that I won't get, but I'll have to tell you because it was so weird. There's information in here about quotes. In quotes, we come on behalf of this, that, and the only self-obligated mission. We are not angels or anything else. We are, and all these different quotes are interspersed in this book. And then there's thermographic analyses, photos showing the craft with thermographically, so it's different colors are showing on. I'm doing it again, and it's got energy fields around it, and all showing up on thermographic photos. That when they took his photos and his negatives, And they analyzed with computers and stuff. They started to do this analysis back in the late 70s. All this stuff. And I'm going, wow. Okay. So I get into 1979. There's nothing more that I can do than read and reread this book over and over and over. Then I go to a place called Sedona, Arizona in 1986. There with my daughter and a friend. We go into a New Age restaurant, to get an avocado sandwich with sprouts. That was the rage at the time. And there's a guy sitting at the other end. The only person in there other than us and the waitress. So, hey, buddy, come on down. We're sitting and talking, and he's into all this stuff with this phenomenon and vortexes and UFOs come up. And then somehow, I don't know if it was me or him, Billy Meier. He says to me, oh, yeah, because we're starting to talk about Billy Meier from Switzerland. He said, do you have the contact notes? I said, what's that? He said, those quotes in your photo book, where those quotes are from those people? I said, yeah. He says, well, those are excerpts from conversations. I have 1,800 pages covering 3 years from 75 to 78.
1,800 pages covering 3 years.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. He said these are his conversations with these people that took place, starting with that first one, January 28th, or whatever, 1975. And he said, hey, when you come back to L.A., come up to Decker Canyon, and I'll give you everything. I did. He did. I went, wow. Took it home. I think it was what you'd call mimeograph back in the day. Before all these instant kind of printing things, there was a machine and it would be cranked out on. So I have 1,800 pages. In 100-page blocks, I start reading. I can't stop reading over months' time because the translations were a little German. A lot of verbs are at the end of the sentences. So whoever was doing this in English translating was constructing the sentences the way they'd be more if you were in German, like I don't even want to try and do it. Okay, so I'm reading this stuff, and it's fascinating and fascinating. That's 1986. That was next step. 2 years later, I have it in here. I could tell you the story, and I could go to the thing, and we can revisit photos with Billy, when he's the Phantom in the Middle East in the 60s, bagging a Magnum and a large knife and a Swiss jacket, and he's, hired by different countries to bring in serial killers and mass murderers. He'd been in the French Foreign Legion when he was 16. But
wow.
Yeah, that was a whole other story. Here he is, King Hussein's palace guards. He was known as the Phantom for a reason. He had nerves of steel. He would go out, and when the West Pakistan, India, or Turkey, hey, we got this guy who's slaying people all over the place. They send him out. He never killed anybody. He made a point of saying, I never kill anybody. He says, if they shoot at me, I shot back, and so the authorities come and get them. I don't kill people. I said, okay, fine. And this is a photo from that time. I don't want to lose the thread for us here on what happened. But, we've got plenty of great photos. This is why he was called Billy. A British woman met him in Pakistan in 1964. He loved the American Wild West. And there's some stories here that would really blow people's minds about that. That's perhaps for another time.
Is Billy not his real name?
Edward Albert Meier.
Okay.
So he's been known as Billy for all that time. And then we did mention that he loses his left arm in a brutal bus accident. And he becomes a night watchman and all. But I'm going to jump ahead so we can take a look.
So real quick, time out before you jump ahead. So
yeah,
we fast forwarded from the 40s to the 70s. Is that correct?
When you asked me, how did I find this? So I'm giving you that story. We can, any order you want this in, we'll work it.
Well, I'm just wondering, as a kid, did he talk to his parents about these visitations?
This is interesting. They found out because he at first didn't know if he could tell his parents about it. And he was able to. And not only that, he found that there was a parish priest that he and his family and everybody in the little village were close to. And he finally was able to confide in him when he started to hear the telepathic voice in his head, because he thought this must be the devil or something or other. And this parish priest had been at first also in telepathic contact and ultimately met the man. Met the
Interesting.
And it turns out that there were some other people, one who was a very famous person who helped him as a
So
child.
he's not a one-of-one that they're communicating with.
Well, he is the only one that they maintained contact and communication with. In his childhood, the parish priest and a couple other people actually met the man. And because, this helped them to understand who this young guy is, what's going to happen, and the help he needs. And, they trusted the parish priest. And there was at least two other teachers who helped him. And there was a psychologist named Carl Jung, a famous psychologist, it turns out, who helped him and refused to talk about the case publicly. It would not have helped him to start talking about, I met this man from outer space.
But did they corroborate his stories?
Oh, they did, of course. Mm-hmm. But the most important thing is, with all of this background material, there's things I can't prove. Mm-hmm. I can't, if somebody says, well, can you prove that the ETs exist? And like you said earlier, whether it's him or extraterrestrials or something, he's publishing these events, and they're copyrighted, and they're ironclad. How does he do that? And, of course, he's been called a crackpot and all the rest of this stuff. And as you also said, he just goes about it. And while he's written some novels, most of these books actually are drawn from the meetings with these people, the teaching that he has the capacity to bring forward, that they also study. So he acts as you could say, a herald, Herald, a prophet, a teacher, for them as well. And it's a very unglorious gig when people are trying to kill you at the rate of,
And how does that go with the parish priest? Like, how does that work with his religious beliefs and what Billy was telling him?
He came to learn, as did a couple other people, kind of firsthand, if you will. This is radical stuff, and that's why I brought you the book. Mm-hmm. He came to find out what the truth of those stories, beliefs, religions, and all were. This is a major portion. It's the key. It's the real reason for this, is to bring once again, for the seventh and final time, what they say is the true teaching of this creation, this thing that we would call spirit, God, or whatever, and they're very specific about, according to them and according to this teaching, what is and what isn't, and how people will have to determine the truth for themselves, certainly from here on.
What do they say? What do they say in regards to religion? Is there one God? Is there multiple gods?
There's neither.
Neither.
Neither, but there have been. Here's where it gets strange. In the past, we'll just go to this because you're getting to the core of it, and it's far more important than UFOs, honest to goodness, as you, I think, sense. According to the information in this case, we live in a universe, which, of course, we all can have a concept there's something bigger than all of this. And it is this creation, this universe, this creation, which, of course, brings forth questions about who and what would have created it. This creation itself is the source and the sustainer of everything that exists, and that human beings have a rather unique role in it. And many aspects of the role that we should, as human beings, be, let's say, pursuing and practicing, we don't. So, how does this fit with the idea of a God? Billy is the seventh and final person, if you will, to have these contacts with this race, to bring forward this information. First is the eye candy, the UFOs. Do we have your attention? Yes. And people run with that and never stop. Then the prophecies and predictions, which I call the higher standard of proof. You said, we don't know who or how, but this is it. This is true, or factual, or find out for yourself. No beliefs whatsoever in this. I've only, in reading thousands of pages in English, I've seen the word "I believe" once from one of the play iron. He said to Billy, when Billy was talking about some woman in Austria or something, he says, "I believe her name is such and such." That was it. So this is very loaded. And this is one of the main reasons why previous prophet contactees and Billy have been so threatened and attacked and all the rest. Right. They are trying to bring the essence of what people are seeking through the teachings of the religions. Mm-hmm. And it's a bigger picture. It's quite a bigger picture. So to come back, there were very powerful people here in the past. If we use the word Yahweh or Jehovah, which we know, that was a real being. And they lorded it over the more primitive, evolving humans, according to this. In some cases, there was benevolence among or between some of these, because there were a number of them, and different religions even have stories of them. You can go into the Indian Vedas, and you read about Krishna or this one or that one. And some of these things are very detailed, very sophisticated. And then you get to the Old Testament, and then you get to the New Testament, and then you get to the book there, that thick book that is sitting there. It's called the Talmud Emmanuel. So this is the reason that I do this, because when I was very young, I asked my mother, I said, I want to know the truth about Jesus and God. I came from a non-religious home. My mother was a refugee as a child, an orphan from Russia. Her mother was a countess and a physician. Her father was a count. The communists were coming in short order, and her parents died. She had to get out of there. But she wasn't religious, and the family wasn't. There was Greek Orthodox in the family. My father's family came from Austria. They were not religious. They were considered Jews, but whatever, Semites, Hungarian, Polish, and Austrian background. But I wasn't raised with a belief system. But for some reason, this was popping up in my mind. I'd come upon this Jesus, and I'd come upon God, and I wanted to know the truth. My mother said to me, and I loved her, she was just honest and, gosh, without guile. People said that about her. She just didn't have any manipulative agendas with people. I liked that. And she said, as far as I'm concerned, God is love. You have to find out the rest for yourself. I'll never forget. I know what room I was in when I asked her. There she was sitting, knitting, or doing something like that.
That's an interesting comment, because love is the most powerful force in the universe.
It is.
This podcast is brought to you by StopBox, the instant access handgun retention device trusted by over 500,000 responsible parents. Patented hand gesture code lock gives you lightning fast access with no electronics. Made in the USA, the most reliable, secure place for your firearms. Go to StopBoxUSA.com and use code Shawn10, that's SHAWN10 for 10% off. StopBox, rapid access when you need it most.
Is the most. Love is also, according to this teaching, and I'm going to paraphrase, it's the knowledge of the interconnectedness of everything and everyone. But we sure don't live as if we're interconnected with everyone.
Yeah, it's because we have to drive on highways with each other. I yelled at like 5 people today on the way here.
Oh, brother, I have to be careful.
So I'm working on it.
Yeah, it's a work in progress. So with that having been said to me, as I'm growing up, I meet different, kids. I know kids and different ethnicities. There's a Greek family I met, and I think I'd gone to a Greek Orthodox church with them or something. So I ended up dipping into different places very lightly, because it wasn't like I was on a big religious mission, to get a sense of something here. So it wasn't until I found the Meier material, and it was abrupt and harsh, I'll tell you, because people say, well, there's information in this material I came across early in the information. It's very harsh towards Israel, towards the people of Israel. Not everybody, but it takes it back to the history of how these people came together. They were never actually a people, a race. They're not like the Chinese. Many different groups, wanderers, gypsies, and just different people in that area who weren't necessarily affiliated with the beliefs of the time that had come together under the tutelage, if you could say, of the Jehovah figure. Now, again, folks, this isn't a belief. It's information. Don't get upset. You can check it out for yourself. Maybe it holds some interesting aspects for people. So here it is. And in there, I'm reading this, and here's my first thought when I started to read it. I wonder if these are Nazis from outer space. Honest to gosh. I wasn't religious, but I wanted, and I didn't have any Bibles at home, so I went online to start looking into the Old Testament. And I'm scrolling through different books, Daniel, this, that, and the other thing. And I'm going, what is this about? On this day, God commanded the Israelites to slay 10,000 or 20,000. I mean, it's really weird stuff in there for me. I'm going, I'm looking for the love and mercy thing or something, but what is this about? And I go through all of this, and I'm going, this is strange. How could... I think I understand now why they're saying this stuff, but I've got to find out more about this. This is rocking my boat. I'm not religious, and this is rocking my boat. There was a brief encounter I had with a radio host in Los Angeles. I challenged him about something, and I said it was about this, really, about this idea of going and killing the Canaanites, I think it was at the time they were catching. I said, how could this be good and how can it be right? And the man said to me, his name is Dennis Prager. I think he's had a bad accident. I wish him only well because he's a very bright man. I don't agree with him about these things, and he was quite a speaker. And he says to me, if God says it's good, then it's good. And I thought, oh, no, but we're talking love and mercy and all this stuff. That can't be right. So I've got to look farther into this. So I set aside that. I would come back to looking into the Old Testament and the New Testament briefly, because as I progressed in this reading, in the study, I hear about this man, because I want to find out about Jesus. I'm still on that one. And then I get to a place in the material where they start talking about a man named Emmanuel, spelled with a J in this material. This book is called Talmud Emmanuel. I'm going, well, what's that about? And I start to read, and they're saying this is the name of the man. This man lived. He was a great prophet. This man...
Which Bible is this in?
Well, glad you asked. It's mentioned once in the Old Testament in Isaiah 7:14, and his name shall be called Emmanuel. Those of you that have a Bible at hand, or you go online right now. And then it's mentioned one more time. That maybe it's in more, but these are the only two times I knew about. Matthew 1:23, and his name shall be called Emmanuel. They spell it alternately in the Bibles with an E or an I sometimes. For whatever reason, this is explained. This is the J figure that was used for this, pronounced Emmanuel.
And what were they saying about him in the Bible?
Well, it's when they're talking about the birth of, Jesus and all this. And not in Isaiah, they're talking about the prophet to come. And I don't have a good recollection of the information before it says that, because when I saw that 7:14, I said, this is in Isaiah 7:14, and his name shall be called Emmanuel. Oh, this is in Matthew 1:23, and his name shall be called Emmanuel? But there are people who certainly know the Bibles far better than I, and a lot of people say, well, it doesn't mean this and it doesn't mean that. But a lot of times it's the same people that say, well, this is the infallible word of God, unalterable. So I'm saying, well, how can it not mean what it says in here? Because people take creative liberties. Okay. So this goes into places that are so unusual. Let's go back to this this experience of Billy loses his arm. I think he lost his arm in 64 or 65. In 63, Billy is with, I think I have that photo. It would be worth my logging onto for this moment. Billy is with a man named Issa Rashid. This is a cropping of the photo because Issa Rashid, I wasn't intending to show the photo of Issa. He's in here, and maybe we get a chance to send you this photo. And he's with a couple other people. And Issa Rashid was a former Greek Orthodox priest. He had a Middle Eastern background. He spoke a Middle Eastern language and wrote it and read it, of course. I don't remember if he was Iraqi or Iranian. This would come to an end in one of these countries. But he also could read and write Aramaic. And I will send you, I don't have it here, but I will send you the picture of the area on the outskirts of Jerusalem that Meier claims that he and Issa Rashid were led telepathically, if you will. They are communicating with him, and he is with Issa Rashid, and the two of them are on the outskirts of old Jerusalem, and there's like a hillside, a burn there. Mm-hmm. And there is a small opening at the base, nothing large. And Billy says, this is where it is, and we have to dig our way in. Okay? So they dig their way in. They open the hole large enough that they can get in. They have flashlights. They enter into what was obviously an ancient tomb. It's got stones on the floor. And Billy says, we have to turn them now till we find it. Okay? So they go about turning over these stones. Obviously, it's a tomb. It's not like a city block or anything like that. I got to put this one behind my back. And there they unearth, not too deeply in the ground, under the stones, what turn out to be resin-encrusted, animal skin-wrapped scrolls, actual flat scrolls, written, it turns out, in Aramaic. And Billy knows about this. Billy already knows a little more, what's coming with this. He turns it over to Issa Rashid, and he said, send me when you have the translation. Okay. And it's about 1970 or so that he hears from him. They've exchanged some letters, but he says he receives a translation, about a third of these scrolls. And the letter says, some very powerful people in Jerusalem have found out that I have this. And we are in danger. We're leaving. And I hope you will hear from me again, but I don't know when. And here's what I've managed to translate. Billy finds out, I think it's in 74 that he finds out, I'm not sure. He's got the scrolls. They're translated into German, the first translation, and he will publish them as Talmud Emmanuel in German. But he finds out that Issa Rashid and his family had to flee, as he was foretelling, and they go into a refugee village in Lebanon. He sequesters the scrolls in the wall of one of these buildings that they're staying in building their home. Within a week, it is said that the Israelis come in and virtually destroy just about the entire village, bomb and everything. And there is a newspaper report from the time of that happening, strangely enough. Or not so strangely enough, it was said to occur. Then Billy doesn't hear from him again. He finds out that according to what he has been told by some people, Rashid and his family entered into Iraq. They went to Baghdad, and they were machine gunned to death by the Mossad. That's the story. He puts out the third of this translated portion. It's called Talmud Emmanuel. He puts out, eventually there's an English translation that comes out. I think it's close to 1990, the first translation. It attracts the attention of a retired professor, comparative religion, and also he was a meteorologist, I believe. And he says, aha, another Bible hoax. Let me add it. He spends some time going over this, and he publishes his own book. Sometime later, it's called Celestial Teachings. The professor's name was James Deardorff, tj.info, or tjresearch.info, I think it is. And in it he said, I have compared this, because he was fascinated by the story, but he thought some people have gone to great lengths. This guy's a UFO contactee, give me a break. it would turn out that he would help to authenticate the photos in his pursuit of the truth. So he says in his findings, this Talmud Emmanuel resolves over 350 inconsistencies in the book of Matthew, 150 of which were not even prominent or discussed until after the Talmud came out. He goes line by line through Matthew, shows the Talmud, and then he shows, because there are some remarkable similarities, and then things that just, whoa, that's really weird, that's different. And he says this is why the Talmud is accurate and real. This is what explains what isn't credibly presented in Matthew. Now, I'm not a Bible scholar, and I can't cite Matthew to you. So this is why people, we're not selling any belief systems here. Find out. You interested? It's a pretty good story, interesting story. Mm-hmm. So he comes out and he says that, puts the book out, and then it takes, I think, 2 more translations until the final one, because Isa Rashid was a very religious man. And when he's coming in contact with this stuff and he's translating, not even consciously, he's altering things more to conform to his own beliefs. So it is said that the final version actually was done, the final translation, with the help of the language specialists in the Plejaren race, who could go much more deeply into the roots of the words and this, that, and the other thing, just to make sure that this is indeed what is said here and that there. And what's remarkable, and it's in this book here, that really, I'll tell you the truth, I've only read the whole Talmud once. It's just like, it's a huge read, historical information, 17 female disciples. I never knew about that. It explains some of the so-called miracles, walking on water, raising the dead, different things that are pretty remarkable in and of themselves, even as they're explained, and they don't quite conform to the biblical version. But in there, what grabbed my attention in the prophecy section, it's chapter 25, a couple things. One was, it says in the future, because Emmanuel was a great prophet, a great teacher, just like, okay. What can you say when you read what this man supposedly actually says and said, and you sense that there's something deeper than, I've read passages from the New Testament, I've read stuff from the Old Testament. It's just the way this speaking goes and what it's about somebody strikes me as having a certain greatness that I did not encounter in anything else I've read. So he speaks about the coming times, the prophet that will come after him. This will really bother people. The next prophet, this probably is bothering the sound guy, I'm sorry.
Should be fine.
Okay. He says in 500 years, I think it was something he says, in 500 years, another true prophet will come. And he's speaking to the Israelites. And he will give your people no peace until the end of time. A false and evil cult will be formed around him, and his teaching, as you will do to mine, will be falsified almost beyond recognition. And his name will be Muhammad. And he will carry this teaching, and it will be corrupted as mine will be corrupted. It will not be until the final prophet comes, the final teacher for humankind, for this, of the same information each time, intended to be purely relayed, but gets corrupted. He will be a simple man living in a far northern country. And he will not be powerful or famous or anything, and he will just slowly go about bringing this teaching back to the world, and people take a long time. It will take a long time from the time that he lives and the time that he passes on before the people of earth will finally know the truth for themselves. And in that period of time, which is hundreds of years from now, many difficult things are going to befall the people. And he speaks about something around these times. He says, there will be something where the skies of the earth will be darkened when the people are warring and they burn the very oil of the earth. And I went, wait a minute. And something about the way he says it, the Iraq War, remember?
Mm-hmm.
Now, how would that be in something that, if indeed it's discovered in a tomb and it's 2,000 years old, well, Emmanuel was a great prophet. Let's just say that, if it's so. And again, this doesn't rest on something that is so volatile and, what would you say, controversial. We've got copyrighted stuff, and these events happen. We just posted another one the other day. I'll just jump to say it. There was a new finding. It was published in the Wall Street Journal that there were secret plans were discovered to attack Russia from Germany. Oh, that's a new discovery? Not really. We have it here. It's been on our website for a few years. In 2017, Billy said there are secret plans that exist for Russia to be attacked by U.S. and NATO from Germany. That's one of 250, 300, where they often use the words when he predicts them that get used when the things are corroborated. Okay, so we come back just for a moment to this. So now they're saying this guy Muhammad, in whose name horrible things are being perpetrated, never intended it. He didn't marry 9-year-old girls. He was a liberator of women. We didn't know. And from the New Testament, there's 17 female disciples. Where are they? Well, it wasn't convenient. Let's just be honest about history and the male domination that was coursing all the way through religions. And even to this day, there's been battles where females have to fight to get a representation in the various church, to be ordained, whatever, however that works. So there's some things to think about there. And when Emmanuel, before he is crucified, as it's written in this book, is excoriating the scribes and Pharisees for what they've done to mislead the people and to take their belongings and blah, blah. And, this guy, he overturned a table in the temple, right? I mean, this guy was not just the way, everybody wants to portray him. He was a real flesh and blood person, according to this, who really, he was a revolutionary in that sense, clearly. And he would pay for it. And here's the kicker. Remember, there's these missing years of Jesus in his life?
Yeah.
It is said that he was tutored as well by the ancestors of these Pleiaren, that he was brought to places in India where original old ancient scrolls with this teaching, portions of the true teaching still existed. He was taught many different things, including, we would say now, meditation, bodily control, yogic kind of a thing, so that he could control himself and his bodily functions to a very high degree. He knew he would have to walk this path. I think even in the, I'm not but somewhere in there, isn't it in the New Testament where he kind of says, I don't really want to go through with this, because it's in the Talmud of Emmanuel, I have to do this, and I have fear, and comes up. Okay, he knew, he did it. He had been trained in a certain way, and here's the other part. The tomb in Old Jerusalem had a back entrance to it. And there were healers who knew this event was coming as well, who had journeyed to Jerusalem. And they would enter after Emmanuel was taken down off of the stake. It wasn't, it wasn't this. It was a Y-shaped stake, according to the information. And the two people crucified on either side of him, they didn't get nails driven through them. They were tied to it, and he had nails driven through his hands and his feet. And he, his loin, it pierced his side. He appeared to the guard to be dead, faster than was expected. Pontius Pilate gave permission when Joseph came and asked to be able to take the body down and bury him. And then for 3 days he was ministered in the tomb, ostensibly, by these healers from India. Now, again, my knowledge of the Talmud is limited that I can draw from it. But on the third day, Gabriel, who was connected to the Pleiaren, the stone is rolled away. he appears to be in the flesh. There are things that are reported in there that after that, he and his family have to leave. They travel out. They go through countries like Afghanistan and Pakistan, and they end up in India, where he is recognized as a teacher, and there is a tomb in Srinagar, India. This you can find online. There's other people have seen it. At the base of this tomb, like a stone at the end of the tomb, 2 human feet are illustrated, if you will, carved into it, with a circle in each one for where something was driven through those feet. Mother Mary dies on the way there. She is buried not far from where this tomb is. And we are told that Emmanuel marries at the age of 48, I think it is, to an Indian woman and bears numerous descendants, one of whom is named Joseph, who will be the son that will carry 70 years after the crucifixion or so. The scrolls down there, nobody remembers, knows anything. He goes and he hides them where he's supposed to. Quite a story, who knows? But he lives to be about 110, Emmanuel, and there's this tomb. Here lies a great teacher who was crucified in his own land and who came here to teach us. Okay, Billy Meier has survived 28 attempts on his life. Any wonder why there's even been 1, 2, 3, or 4? If you're bringing forward information like UFOs, what about this? And you're tying it into the whole thing? Yes, because there's a bigger picture, and we are trying for people to come back together in love, because human beings are going to create things that will destroy them if they don't destroy themselves first. We can get to that. But this is about a teaching that requires only self-responsibility to determine. Someone's going to read it and say, hoax, don't buy it. Someone else will say, food for thought. Doesn't hurt anything. He's talking about love, peace, freedom, harmony, and that the people of Earth have been misled very badly over a long period of time, must come together, because it will also be the powerful ones who will try to enslave them again. I mean, so much stuff that is attributed to this man who's mentioned once in Isaiah and once in Matthew, at least. But that's all I know. That's all I ever found.
So that's what got you hooked on all of this?
No. That's what got me. That's where I came to find the answers to the childhood interests. The UFOs had my attention for a long time.
Right.
And it wasn't until in 1998, I think 98 or 99, I wrote an article that's online, Beyond Great UFO Photos. So that's when I started to get into the prophetic information, the science stuff, because what would happen after I'd been in that little cafe with the guy and I go to L.A. and I get all these papers and stuff, 2 years later, I would open up a newspaper. I think I can go to it. If you bear with me for a moment, because we've got tons of stuff. I mean, I've got UFO photos up the wazoo.
Today's episode is proudly sponsored by Grizzly Coolers, the only cooler I trust when I'm out there. Roto-molded, bear-proof, and holds ice for 10 days straight. And unlike the overseas knockoffs, every Grizzly is proudly made in America with American steel and American grit. Hit grizzlycoolers.com and use my code Shawn, that's SHAWN, for 15% off. Grizzly Coolers, built here, built tough.
And they're the only ones that have been authenticated, like not made on Earth. Okay, let's see. Yeah, this is it. Let's see here. The higher standard proof. Previously unknown, prophetically accurate, scientific, environmental, geopolitical, medical's a big one, by the way, and economic information verifiably published by Billy Meier before all official discoveries. So here's what happens. I open up a newspaper down there, and I see this headline. This was in 1988. Atom bomb testing tied to ozone depletion. On the right-hand side, this is from a later article, I think 1990, and that's more information about the damage to the ozone. And I'm going, what the heck? Why do I know this? I'm reading this. They're talking about these percentages and this. I know this. So I reach under the bed first 100-page block that Ralph gave me. Oh, yeah, it's here. As a matter of fact, it would subsequently be published in a book. First, it's published in these loose forms. It'd be published in this book. And we've got the ISBN numbers and copyright dates. The copyright dates in the book are later because to publish these books, to put the books together from all these reports, these contact notes or reports, you're in this pre-digital era. Everything's typeset by hand and blah, blah, blah. But we have the earlier stuff. And there are people still own all this stuff.
Did he make a book every year?
It wasn't about that. No, what happened is when he would meet with the people, and this is what was interesting that caught my attention, they would speak to him, he would speak to them. Now, perhaps people can see here that there's some numbers at the beginning of something. Every time one of the extraterrestrials would be speaking, sometimes he would say today's message, sometimes it was just very conversational. They would number each of their sentences. Why? Because people are going to claim that this guy backdates stuff. So first he's publishing all these in German. Now it takes time. They got to translate into English and all that stuff comes out. It's going to be translated into other languages. That means that any time we've got contact number 7, or seventh contact, from February 25th, 1975, sentence 17, with some rare, let's say, exceptions where something was a number or off, but the information is the same, and it would be maybe 18 starting in somebody else's copy, but most of it is standardized. So that means that if it's in German, give me the English translation. We just got this. Oh, let's go to sentence 17.
Oh, so they could translate it immediately.
They could translate it, and they could verify that it hasn't been faked. It hasn't been altered since the time that they can prove they published it.
I see.
So they're not stupid. They're low-key. They just do little things that make it,
And how long were these interactions that he would have on a regular basis? Because I noticed, I was looking back at the dates, and it was like some of them are the day after, some of them are 3 or 4 days after, a week after.
Sometimes even
kind of sporadic. And were these all in person, or were they speaking to him through
The majority are in person. He would be notified. He said, I get a cool feeling across my forehead, so I pay attention, and they are saying to come to this place now or this time or whatever. I get my camera. I get my moped. He's a one-armed guy. He's not carrying...
And he couldn't bring friends with him.
Pardon me?
He couldn't bring anybody with him. It was just
no, he couldn't.
private.
Although some people sometimes tried to follow along or something. And there are other people who have had the opportunity to take photographs of their ships, not maybe as good as his, and they've seen the ETs accidentally, including an ex-wife who calls it, they're divorced. Okay, she says he's a terrible hoax and all, but she gave a testimonial to seeing the craft, to seeing one of the ETs. The children have seen the ETs or the craft more than the ETs. And other people accidentally, when these people that he meets with have been on the property, and unexpectedly somebody is there that they don't know about. It comes around the corner, literally. There was a couple of, the kind of funny scenes happened, but they try to avoid it because they're saying, we meet with you, you're the person you were going to trust to do this. Oh, wow, why shouldn't there be 50 contactees? So you can get 50 different versions again, and somebody's going to start another religion? And what kind of a mess do we need? No. If you don't mind dodging bullets for the rest of your life, Mr. Meier, you're the guy. So here, in this contact, this, for people that can make this out if you can, ozone-destroying chemicals. Now, it isn't just on one page. It turns out that on this particular topic, on this day, they're talking about the ozone belt, atomic testing, gases, everything, but especially the atomic link to it. This comes from atomic energy, from leaks, from testing of A-bombs, all sorts of stuff. And down here, dangers presented by the release and these explosions, elementary radiations. Your scientists don't even have tools to measure these things. You don't know what you're doing, and you've got to warn people. There's a scientist you got to get to, and I might have glossed over where they told him in here, but there's this guy, Professor Michael McElroy at Harvard. Huh, it's funny, it's 1, 2, 3, 4 up there. Professor Michael McElroy, contact him and send him this information. He's working in this field on Earth. So Billy said, okay, and he sent it. Guy never got back to him, of course. And, of course, we've been able to verify, subsequent to the verified publication of this, and even more information that's in here that we may not know about, our scientists. I will tell you that I am in contact now. Finally, I'm in contact with a NASA scientist who's been willing to look at some information, and suddenly I sent him some information. He's gotten very quiet. I'm hoping that he will continue the exploration because I've done this with another scientist before, and they kind of get all shaky. So here was something else. This was another thing a couple of years later. Earthquakes, oil interact. Scientist Paul Siegel from Stanford or something like this, and he says, there's a connection between the extraction of petroleum and natural gases and the destabilization of the plates, tectonic plates, and it causes earthquakes, and we can get volcanic eruptions and stuff. Well, it so happens that in Contact 45, verifiably 12 years earlier, they're telling him about ore mining and other mineral mining on a planet or another star is done by us only in extreme emergency because this process is equal to the destruction of the star. A planet or another star is never exploited in a form as is done on Earth. And they tell us what's coming from this. Massive earthquakes, volcanic eruptions. We even know the names of the volcanoes in some cases, where they're located. So this continues, and let's just see, I forget even what this is about here. Okay, yeah, so this actually goes back to 1946. This is where it kind of gets interesting for me, because Billy, his first teacher, knew things about him that these people that start to meet with him in 75 don't know. It was kept from them. This man Svath is the father of one of the current people. These people live a very long time, supposedly. So, look here. He's talking in 1946 about how we are threatening, our behavior is threatening. This word Ausartungen is like upheaval and crazy stuff that destroy nature and its fauna and flora, as well as water and climate and all the natural things on the planet, which will lead to natural disasters like those in the primeval world. Now, he doesn't stop there. He talks about the threatening degenerate machinations of human beings if they aren't stopped, and they irresponsibly continue to multiply in number. Oh my gosh. You mean these people want eugenics and they want to... No, just bear with us, folks. It's not about that at all. Because he's saying if this activity of increasing the Earth humans is not stopped, and they don't mean that we are eliminated, let's say it again, then technical developments will very soon arise from it in the future, which, among other things, will produce an artificial intelligence that will one day turn against Earth humans and fight them. 1946.
Wow.
Now, let's just jump.
Was artificial intelligence even a term that was being used back in the 1940s?
No. Maybe some science. I didn't know about it until I read this material, and then of course we hear about it. So,
and this is his writings when he was 5.
What you're seeing in these two examples and in some others is when the Plejaren people, since we are speaking to him, this man Svath in 1946 has dictated this information. So he is the author here. If we get to any of Billy's stuff from when he's 9...
This is when Billy was 5, right? 1940s?
Well, Billy at this time is, let's see, what was it, 8 years old or 9 years old or something, yeah.
Do you have any of the writings that he... Is this from one of the first things he wrote, or did he write this as an adult?
This is his copy of what his teacher spoke.
Okay, so
So
the
this is
teacher
not-
gave him this copy.
Yes, these
Okay.
were given from this. And here again, it is carrying on a few sentences after the previous one, talking about the irresponsibility of humankind will cause climate change. We're going to get to this in one moment because I know this is a hot button for a lot of people. And they're saying this is due to this fast and unstoppable, as well as numerically high-growing Earth humanity, which is far above the Earth's tolerable level of coping ability. We're getting to things that weren't being talked about in 1946 by anybody else, let alone now. Okay, so he says, disadvantages also rise for Earth humanity, and to such an extent that for the time being and for a long time and far into the next millennium, no help can be taken against it. Remember in the previous one, he says the artificial intelligence. So just for a moment, climate change. Now, I put this up here for a reason. Life isn't political or religious. Only people are. We can't negotiate or pray away floods, fires, famines. We can learn how to understand and live in harmony with nature if we want to survive. Now, this isn't pantheism. We're not running around, and this isn't, Billy's the first guy to warn about all this stuff, clearly, climate change. But you see, what's ruined so much for us as human beings with different points of view to come together and grasp things is you've got people on the left who are lunatics. Let's face it. These people are equal opportunity offenders. They'll tell you these people are crazy. And Billy's written more about everything in nature than you can even imagine. He knows about every species of this, that, and the other thing. He's got pages of this stuff. How many species have been lost? And the creatures that live under the seas that we haven't found yet. And sometimes there's a new big kind of a squid or something. He's already described it, that he was taken to see this, and then one of them pops up. It's just like, okay, maybe we'll catch on at some point. So here's the thing. The people on the left, let's just be like we're being partisan here for a minute. Very often, a lot of good, sensitive people into the environment. I would say I grew up being an artist and a songwriter and all this stuff, and the first song I ever wrote when I went and moved to California was, "We are man and woman seeking for the way to get along. With all the trees and seas and animals before our light is gone, we stay here for our lifetime, we go the way we came, and the only thing we leave this earth is our body and our name. I am one with brother." Nice little folk song, right? And all that stuff. Well, I don't go out and try and destroy paintings in museums or on any of this idiocy and glue myself to the road, because that's a disgrace. It's a refutation. It dishonors the essence of our connection to nature for people to go out and parade their egos and be destructive and think they know better than everybody else and stick it in people's faces who don't feel this way. How are you ever going to get reason between human beings if we can't respect each other? Love, peace, freedom, harmony, core teaching, and people have to come together. We talk about that. Make America great again. There's a slogan. I don't particularly like the slogan. I think there's other things we should think about, because who's it great for? A lot of people right now aren't getting the benefit of greatness, and a lot of people are getting a lot greater, meaning richer. Okay, we are equal opportunity offenders, and they certainly have to play our. In other words, we have in this teaching, this isn't just a namby-pamby thing. They say, look, the first principle, 100% complete, total self-responsibility, every human being. Nobody's coming to save you. Nobody's going to live your life for you. Nobody's going to punish you, other than, in effect, two possibilities. Accidents that happen, and everybody has them, or through a misunderstanding of the law of cause and effect. You're doing things, you're thinking incorrectly, you're feeling in the wrong way, and you're acting in the wrong way. So you're bringing upon yourself things, but it's fine. You're going to have some mistakes to learn. But you have to learn. You are the smith, the forger of your own destiny. And number two, you must learn to see things as they really are. So, climate change. Well, they even said, yes, climate change is natural. Like a lot of people who don't think that the current climate change is a big deal. Climate change is natural, they said, but unfortunately, it's now 75% man-made rather than maybe 20%. And if you folks will just be rational and think about things, when in that previous slide we talked about the Earth being capable of tolerating or handling, if we have a little aquarium at home or a terrarium, right? Aquarium, there's fish in there. Keep putting fish in. Just keep throwing fish in. Keep feeding them even if you want to, but keep adding fish. It starts to go south at a certain point. The fish end up floating. Things are rotting and dying. Well, what about in a terrarium? Well, just keep sticking more plants in there and different little creatures that are, working the air. Same thing. Overcrowded. Too much. Ever been to Hong Kong? Okay. So, New York City, we got a laundry list. We weren't meant to live that way. They don't live this way. They said, look, hey, we're not perfect. We've just had far longer to evolve and to go through a lot of the grief already that you folks are upon. Things to come, the prophecies and predictions, they were given as warnings so you would make course corrections and not do certain things and not empower certain people in your world, in certain countries, who would mislead you and be there only for themselves. Time and time again, on this side of the aisle or that side of the aisle, this party or that party, if you can't see things as they truly are, and if you don't get that the emperor has no clothes when the emperor has no clothes, or that the emperor needs a little reminder or somebody to... Folks, you're responsible for this. Everybody, 100% self-responsible. 2, you got to see things the way they are, and you need, in that seeing things the way they are, to practice what they call neutral positive thinking. So if we see this here, and we see it as it is, pretty much, without getting too fancy about it, it's all light and all the rest of this, it's a bottle of water. If I want to say, no, it's a bottle of soda, it's a cup of coffee, and I want to enforce that on there because that's what I prefer, then that isn't changing. And anything related to that won't change if somebody comes along and take a swig of it. They're not getting coffee or soda. We do this thing of overlaying our likes, our dislikes, our fears, our hopes, and our dreams on events, on people all over the place, on with our beliefs, with any and everything. We haven't learned this. And part of this, let's face it, politics and religion, folks. Come on. Now, if you don't like that, fine, leave it alone. We're not here to force people. This isn't about you've got to convert to a different form of thinking. It's just like we've got some folks that prove that they exist, or somebody does, that can do these things, and the warnings come true over and over and over. Well, do we have the wit, the will, and the wisdom to try to figure out what we can do with it?
Yeah. Yeah.
That's it.
Just stay neutrally positive. Correct?
Yes, and so that means also when we see things as they are, and let's say we're talking about a course of action, an event, when we see the thing as it is, then how do we feel about that? Then what do we think about that? Do we want to change that to something else through being conscious and thinking it through? Do we want to leave it as it is? Do we want to not perpetuate it at all? We have to, and we're doing this 24/7. We just don't know we're doing this constantly.
Right. Yeah.
Thoughts lead to feelings, lead to thoughts, lead to actions. So they're saying you need to learn to think. So one of Billy's greatest books is called Might of the Thoughts. So when he says every human being is 100% self-responsible, that sounds, that's just some new age thing. Now, if we are thinking all the time, and thoughts are the most powerful thing, really, everything made manifest in this room, thought made manifest. The thoughts of human beings can create the most amazing things. Now, these people are more advanced. If they are real, they travel in craft. It's kind of like the difference between what they're doing and even what some of our secret military technology is, and Elon Musk with his rockets, which are nice. They're tin cans that you throw off into space, but then you burn up the fuel. That's not going to get you into true outer space ever. And it may get people to start on Mars because it is predicted that if we survive ourselves here, which is in doubt, we would return. There would be people going back to a planet that was once inhabited before. And they explain how and where that came from. And they explain how and where all of, not all of, but much of humankind came from genetic manipulations to another human race 22 million years ago. You know, I've always wondered, look, with all due respect to biblical or any creational stories, you know, there's creational stories in all sorts of traditions, but let's just say Adam and Eve, white race. Where'd the red race, the brown race, the black race, the yellow race come from if that was the creation of humankind? Well, if you go to this material, let's just say, well, possibilities here. They explain that at this time, about 2 million years ago, I think it was, the first of the ancestors of the Asian, what we call Asian races, first came here to look around and then went back. And it was only about, I think, 26,000 plus years ago that the progenitors of the current Asian people came here. And there was a black race under a leader named Ledon, Ledon, and that's a few 100,000 years ago, a space-traveling black race. This is a nightmare for people that are prejudiced and got racial issues. And as a matter of fact, there are some aliens you've met that also look like, let's say, Middle Eastern to Negroid people.
That's a good lead into, because we're starting to run out of time right now. We got about 40 minutes, so
whatever you want.
I want to get some questions in here.
Do it.
And one of them was specifically about the different races of these aliens and the different types of entities. Like you said, some of them, I know in some of your the stuff that you were talking about before and the teachings, some of them are the same race, but there could be two of the same race. One's from the future.
Well. By that I meant that when the original contact person for Billy, the man that is known as Svath, showed up, he was at that time, 1940s into early 50s, and then it would be later that his son, who is the current leader of that race, they're big on beards. Even the men have them. Okay.
They got strong beards.
Yeah, they have very strong beards. So this is the woman that he met with starting in 1975. She had a terrible accident in I think it was 78. She almost died in his office.
This one?
Yes.
What was the accident?
What happened was when Billy has the contacts with the people, ostensibly nobody is around to disturb them, and they try to make sure of that. And if necessary, they'll tell people to not be around at a certain time. Well, he was having a contact with this woman called Semyaze, which is not the same as Semyaza from the Old Testament and all that, folks. Semyaze, and they use these names for whatever reasons. She is sitting, leaning against a desk in his office. There's a guy there. I won't say his name. He's had enough grief from this for a long time. He hears voices from, he's not hearing voices. He's hearing the voices from people in a room. And he wants to get closer because he figures it must be one of these Pleiaren talking to Billy. So as he gets closer, it's an old house they live in, and something creaks. And she gets startled and literally falls off and hits her head against, it's cold there in Switzerland. They have sometimes those portable radiator heaters, all metal. She falls right into it and falls to the floor and falls on the belt that she has. She's back in her craft. We're just about dead, lying in it.
So what is this belt? Like a teleportation belt?
It's one of the functions on the belt is beam her back up. All this stuff, it sounds very sci-fi, but where do we think we ever got any of these ideas?
Well, I was wondering, that was one of my questions. Like, are they parking in the back parking lot and walking through the back door? That makes sense now.
When there's nobody up there, they have, we have some of those photographs of the craft on the ground there, one is within 15 feet of it. They generally will beam down either onto the property or directly into his office, so they claim. Again, some of this is a little rough. Here's the guy that came.
They're all good looking, too. These aliens are
real strong, healthy, because they use genetic, knowledge to their advantage. Their lifespans run anywhere from several hundred years, maybe 500-600 years, up to 1,200, depending. They have technologies that have, lengthened lifespans when necessary, but they also know about the two factors that limit human lifespans. There's two genetic mutations, and they've told about this long ago in the beginning. One is a genetic mutation that was done to our very far distant ancestors from the Sirian star system, who were a genetically manipulated race that were altered to be warriors for a very peaceful race in the Sirian star system that got themselves so far to the left, if you will, peaceful, they couldn't defend themselves anymore. They had, and this, negative and positive attract. There is negative and positive throughout the universe, and they started to attract some of the negative. They got about genetically as fast as they could while they were working to get themselves re-geared. They got a race that they would genetically manipulate, if you will, so they would have a propensity for increased violence, fighting abilities, right? At the drop of an anything. They would also reduce their lifespans down to about 100 years, so they couldn't live long enough once they have served their purpose for their overlords to rebel against them. So that meant that they implanted degenerative disease, different alterations genetically, and these people, the genetically modified ones, would serve their purpose. And it is said in this material, again, folks, no beliefs, this is the story. When these Syrians had survived all this and started to return to their own abilities, fighting spirit just even at a natural level, which they had even washed out of themselves, they decided to get rid of the genetically manipulated people. A portion of them did. In a hierarchy. There were parts in the hierarchy there that said, we cannot do that. We don't do that. There was opposition, and it turns out, according to the story, on one night, late at night, the positively disposed overlords took a large number of those people in huge craft, large number, and fled with every one of them they could. And they plunged into the depths of space on their way to who knows where until they found there was another galaxy. These people supposedly space traveling. They found a galaxy, and at the end of one of the spiral arms, there was a solar system there, and there was a couple of planets, a couple of them, 3, looked like they were habitable, and they plopped down on them. One of them was called Melona or Phaeton. It became the asteroid belt when those people went nuts and destroyed their planet, because these, again, they didn't have, they still had their, Star Wars on steroids kind of mentalities. Mm-hmm. Mars, those people got wiped out for the most part when the destroyer comet came through that portion, this part of the solar system. That's in this information. And Earth, there was a group here. The overlords for these people, if you will, represented themselves as their gods, their creators. And this is something that's percolated down. There have been a number of them at different times. Some were stationed in Egypt underneath the Great Pyramid for a time. You may remember that recently there was an article that came out about finding a hidden place.
The columns.
The columns underneath the Great Pyramid, right? There's stuff down there. Mm-hmm. Well, in 1953, we published it. After he published it originally, he's describing being down beneath the Great Pyramid and what's down there. And there's a huge craft, and there's a huge hall, and there's these guards, these robotic guards and all. It's printed there. And you know who Clayton Morris is, I guess, from Redacted, that show. I've been on a few times, but he keeps saying to people, hey, Billy Meier predicted this. It's copyrighted now. And when that whole thing with the pyramid thing, he did a whole section on that. Billy Meier predicted it. Then he's talking to a guy who's all about, underneath the pyramids, but not about UFOs. And the guy's sitting there going like this, So Clayton Morris knows about this case extensively. And he recently, the Arctic, there was a whole thing in the news about the conflict at the Arctic with the mineral rights and all this stuff. Well, Billy spoke about we put up the video in 2015, and Clayton saw that, and he's, oh my gosh, Billy Meier reported on this, and this is what happens when people they're involved in another study, the news and all. And I go, well, how about this? Billy Meier described what this Tic Tac video was about. He described so many things, and we have videos on it. He's talking about these things, the other beings that share the planet with us underneath, and why we shouldn't be firing at their craft.
Let's talk about those.
Sure. What?
Let's talk about the aliens that are living underneath the ground.
Okay, I only know a certain amount. I can say this, that as far back as about 1990, maybe even before, he's conversing with one of the alleged ETs, and he's conversing mainly with, at that time, with Ptah, and they're talking about the Earth foreigners, and he's saying, yes, how many races? And he says, well, there's 4 groups, and they're starting to release some information about this. I sometimes get a little confused about this. Andrew is clearer on it. But,
why would they be hesitant to release information about the other aliens?
Well, because there's a couple reasons. One, it's not part of their mission to interact with him. They are very specific and clear about, we do not make ourselves known to these people. We avoid them. And so, well, why? And he said, well, it isn't because of their technology, which compared to Earth technology is like phenomenal. I mean, they are way ahead of us down there. These are descendants of previous, ETs that were gods in Egypt and or South and Central America. We can find artifacts about things, but he said, unfortunately, they have some of the same behavioral tendencies that the Earth people do. A little domination-oriented, but there's another part of this. It's in the prophecies, in what's called the Enoch prophecies, which foretell a very bad time for us in America, because we're going to go to war with Russia and China, and so the prophecies say that there will then be cloned fighting machines, AI, computer-controlled technology that will turn against us. So if we don't lose it all through the war, we will be running from AI if we can, which is going to be pretty difficult. So these beings underneath have very high technology. Billy makes a point of it. Very high technology compared to us on Earth. We should not, military shouldn't shoot at their object, at these craft, because they get at a certain point, they're not going to like that anymore, and not good. It is said in the Enoch prophecies, I believe it is, Enoch being Enoch, people know that name, he was one of the contactee prophets. It's said that when the West goes aggressively against the East, meaning Russia, China, which have been preparing for they've been preparing for this since 76. That's also known in here. But we have been leading the aggression against them because neither of those countries ever attacked us that I know about, us here. But we're going to go and attack them from Germany and everything else. It's not going to turn out very well for us and for others, because the descendants of certain extraterrestrials under certain conditions will come to the aid of the powers being attacked by the West. Not good. We could learn from this. We could start, look, this is a topical thing. This drove me nuts. I've just got to tell you, it drove me nuts on the whole thing with the drug boat thing. Here's a boat, 200 miles. It can't even, wait a minute. Why are we killing human beings? We don't know their names. We can't prove anything about them. We haven't arrested them. They've never been tried or convicted or anything. This isn't the way we should behave. We have people who know very well what it takes to be a warrior and how and when that should be employed in the defense of the country, of the people. We can't make these things up just because we want the oil from Venezuela or whatever. I mean, these things are transparent. And people have to have more character than that, and more integrity and more honesty. Okay, enough pontificating, but
If you've had the vaccine, particularly if it's Pfizer or Moderna, you have this in you. If you had the PCR testing and you had that hydrogel that contained the graphene oxide, you have this in you. Once we realized that this is what we were facing, we were like, well, what are we going to do now?
I know you guys are able to find and remove some of these objects that are implanted in people, but with this newest stuff, you're saying it's at the nanoscale. So how are you going to remove stuff at the nanoscale?
With the nanotech, there is a solution, high-grade zeolite. Zeolite is usually found, and it's sourced at two locations, usually blue zones, areas where humans tend to live far longer and healthier. It has to have volcanic activity where the diatomaceous earth and the sea meet, and that's where they get this pure high-grade zeolite, which has a negative charge to it. When it's integrated into the human body, what it does is it binds to the graphene oxide, and so they've done studies now where they did a baseline, exposed people to the graphene oxide, and then what they see is that after about 90 days, it'll be down to a minimal level. Most people who are on this right now are saying they're having significant improvements in how they're feeling, the symptoms that they're getting, and it's as much as over 50%.
The other thing too is like where those boats are coming from. It accounts for, I think I saw a statistic, 2% of the fentanyl in the world.
Can I give you an answer?
Why are we going after them?
Why are we going after them?
No, I know why. I'm just being.
Oh yeah, okay.
facetious.
And my question was, when was the last time you were somewhere when anything, whether is that like chewing tobacco or something there?
Nicotine pouches.
Nicotine patches.
You want one?
No, thanks.
This is really good. This is like the cleanest nicotine out there.
I don't smoke. I've never. I would like to talk to you about that. Tell me more about that. But I want to tell you this. When was the last time a nicotine patch jumped out of a container and forced itself on somebody's body? When was the last time fentanyl, heroin, or anything else jumped off a desk or on a piece of paper or was in an injectable form and it forced itself into somebody? 100% self-responsibility. Don't sell me that I'm the victim.
Right.
Of something, or I'm going to be unless you kill a bunch of people on my behalf. Not right. We've got to get our values right,
Agreed.
Yeah. So I don't want to bypass anything that you might want to cover that we can.
No, you're good. We're pretty much hauling through all of this. I had a question for you earlier. I was thinking when you were talking. Have you ever doubted him?
Yes, of course. I tried to trick him. I was with Billy. This is going back maybe 15 years or so. I was in his office with him, and it was in the zeros, like 2005, 6, 7, somewhere up to 9 or so. And he had just gotten a laser printer, I think, and there were all these papers shooting out of, it was like stopped animation, suspended animation. And I look at it, and he says, "Oh yes," he says, "I write the teaching for the Plejaran people too. You know." I said, "Yes, I know." He says, "So Quetzal has to come here, and he beams down into the office, and he gets the papers, and he goes back to his ship, and then he goes home to the Plejars, and then it's very complicated and time-consuming. So now, next week, Zafanat Paneak is coming. Zafanat Paneak is coming. He's going to fix my computer. Then I only have to type in a code, and it goes to a little disk above the earth, and then that broadcasts it to them, and he doesn't have to waste his time with all this." I said, "Oh, so you have an IT from outer space. Okay, sure, that makes sense."
Geek Squad.
Geek Squad.
Outer space,
Really Geek Squad. So I wait till the next year when I'm coming back for another visit, and I say to him, "So, Billy, how's your computer there? Oh, my computer, yeah, it's fine, except not really." He said, "Zafanat Panea came last year to fix so I could just send a teaching up to the little disk, so they sent he didn't miss a beat." This is weird stuff to remember. So he says, "But then he screwed something up in the computer. I have to wait for him to come back to fix it." Okay. 2 more or 3 more times. One was 6 months apart, and the other were a year apart. I asked him the same question casually, same answer. Now, this man has been seeing a lot of people between then. He's dodging bullets. He's maybe traveling in time. Who knows what he's doing? I ask him, he just answers it. It's matter of fact because he knows it. He doesn't have to think about it or remember it. Does it make it true? Nope. It's just one of those things.
Does he believe in heaven and hell or with the teachings?
No, we make that for ourselves while we live. The whole, other story that maybe we could get into it when it's possible is what happens when we die.
Yeah.
That's a deeper
Very
story.
curious there.
Because it terrifies us as human beings from time immemorial. And they have a teaching about it that it isn't theirs. They say this is the teaching that comes from this creation. Okay. It's not channeling. It's not religion. What is it? How do you do that? Well, you have to determine the truth for yourself. Is it true? Is it not true? I disagreed with him about crop circles, about the geoengineering stuff and all, back as far back as 1990s and all. We made an agreement in 2004. I said, Billy, I want to represent you. I will do it for free. You don't pay me, and I don't pay you. But that means I am free to say, I don't know, or I disagree. Mm-hmm. I can say I don't know a lot because I don't know until I can actually see the evidence that something is true. I haven't found them to lie in the 47 years now, actually, that I've been looking into this. I haven't found lies, and I don't think he's ever lied to me. No. So
what do they teach about when people die? What happens?
Okay, I'm going to have to give you a compressed version, and it will be imperfect. Let's just say this. We hear a lot about a soul, right? They say it's a misnaming. The soul that is talked about is what they call the psyche. It's located around the solar plexus. And it got called that for certain reasons. There's a lot of the personality and emotions and feelings here. When we die, that begins to fade, but there's information here that is absorbed and contained in, we would call them like etheric computers, storage banks they refer to. But to be the most important thing is, deep within the center of the brain is a part piece of this universe, the creation energy, a part piece, the potential that through countless incarnations or reincarnations of the evolving spirit form, we get to be, as human beings, not only at that level, but at the level of those that are above them in the still physical manifest universe before entering what we would call the higher spiritual or creational levels. Now, I'm giving a very abbreviated and could be not perfect, but all of this lifetime that we live this time is absorbed, the spirit, if you want to use that term, the creation energy form in us processes the entire life. It maintains, it keeps that which is evolutionary and positive, and it doesn't keep the negative. We don't, if there's a reincarnation, as people think, it's a little different than people think, but
how is it different?
We're never the same personality.
Oh.
Not necessarily even the same gender, and in some cases, we're not the same races. So this is troublesome too, because as human beings, we can go through all sorts of angst about, when I come back, if this is true, and you and I are the current bearers of this evolving spirit form that is uniquely yours, whatever yours means in spiritual, creational level, and uniquely mine and our other friends here, that raises lots of questions, and it's why it's mainly what Billy's 60-plus books are about. Death, dying, rebirth, reincarnation, living, things that are called fluidal forces or fluidal energies. We don't even know about what our entire makeup as human beings, what our potential is. That's why that book, Might of the Thoughts, oh, folks, get this book. The book, we have a book, The Way to Live, because clearly we're not doing that on Earth. And these aren't, thou shalt do this or else. This is how this works. If I want to learn how to fix a computer and it's an online book or it's a physical book, it says do this and you get that result. That's what the teaching is. Do this to make this result in your life, to improve this or that, to learn how to do this, how to control these parts of us that go nuts, so that we all have.
Are these
more?
Are these more of like collective teachings for all of Earth, or is it individual teachings also?
It's a teaching singular, actually. The creation energy teaching is singular. It's a body of information. Now, there are earlier lessons and later lessons in it. The Pleiad, what Billy writes for them is it's still the same essence, but it's advanced information that we can't use. It's like, you say, well, I want to know all this about time travel, or we're not at a place that we can handle that yet. Oh, I can handle anything. Handle your life. Mm-hmm. Try to learn the way to live at this stage. Be patient. And I have a bumper sticker we put out. It says, trust life. It's bigger than we are. And we don't like everything about life. That's fine. We love certain things. There's a teaching that helps us to understand all of this. And it's an ongoing thing. There are books I've reread a few times, and I still will reread them, because he does not use words frivolously. And they're very specific, and the meaning is very alive. And sometimes we can take meanings. They explain it, they have for the German language. This word means this, not that. And this is a complex thing. It's not something you get through in a lifetime. The Talmud, the Manuel book that's sitting there, that's the book that if people want to challenge or learn or both, the whole thing, it's not to make people wrong. It's not to make your religion, or there's good things. The golden rule, if we follow that, it's cause and effect, folks. Mm-hmm. Do unto others as you would have them do, because it's going to come back to you, whether Joe or Jane delivers the unwelcome consequences of your bad thinking and acting. It comes back to you in a certain way. Internally, it isn't always the same, but we pay for our mistakes because we are learning. It's not, we don't have karma. Mm-hmm. We're not being punished. After you die, you'll be dipped in hot lead for eternity, unless you believe this. Why? I mean, I have a funny thought even about prayer. If this universe, if everything's created by whatever force we want to call it, God, the creation, whatever, listen, we look at just as Earth, you look at the night sky and you go, wait, this is magnificent. We're in a little part of this. Why would I try to beseech a supreme creational force, energy, being anything, to try and fix my life? Maybe I've got to fix my own life, and it's a given. You see, it's not punitive, because the laws of creation say when you learn how to live, you enter into the abundance of life. There's actually a law of creation called, I think it's called the law of provision. As we aspire to live in harmony with the true teaching, we find enoughness in life, sustenance. To me, wealth is having what you need. It's great to, but there are people that want to amass and amass and amass, and they're going to leave it for other people to fight over. How much can I eat? I want to learn the truth, because that will feed me more than $1 million. Hey, there's nothing wrong. If somebody wants to donate, I've got a donation button on my voluntary website. But let's get our perspective right, folks.
Right. What are the teachings as to why they won't show themselves to the public?
Because in the past, through religions, we have had misrepresentation by other beings who did misrepresent themselves as the creators, and people turn over their power to outside, real or imagined, gods, saints, saviors, angels, ascended masters that don't exist because that's against the laws of creation. You don't ascend and hang out somewhere. The devil, all this evil. They say, look, we can't risk that. We would be responsible for harming people who have strong beliefs that don't allow for us to be real to them. And they have had people who've committed suicide, who saw them accidentally. There were some people who used to be really negative towards Billy. He doesn't go and punish anybody. They were workers on the road above where the CIA has its place. They've monitored him from there. Now it's back to the Swiss military invading him. But these guys were working up there, and they really had it in for him. I think they were Turkish or something. It's not bad about the Turks. It's just my memory. And one day, one of the crafts came in, and they weren't screening the visibility. And one of those guys saw it, and he couldn't handle it, and he killed himself. There was a farmer from the village who saw one of the craft who came to see Billy and said, "Listen, I'm one of the people that has been calling you crazy. I got some photographs here of this." "Oh, okay." He says, "It's okay. It's all right." These things have happened. And it's not like they're trying to scare people or seduce them into believing or anything. Accidents happen. They've damaged some trees occasionally when they were posing the craft by trees to show the scale in size between the craft and trees, which is why they have so many photographs.
That's why they're next to the trees.
Yes.
I always wondered.
Professor Deerdorf, professor of meteorology, contacted some forestry professors he knew. I think they may all have been either at Oregon State or associated places, and he sent them photos. He says, "Tell me about the tree. Forget about the silver thing. Don't need to explain that. Is that a model tree? Because then they'll let us know, is that a model craft?" And they said, "Well, no, that's such a this is the species of the tree, and you can tell from the nesting up here and the pruning marks down there, because model trees don't have these idiosyncrasies that real trees have." And they said, "We'd like to know what the silver things are."
Can
but
we
anyhow,
pull one
those
up
are
on the
about-
screen?
Pardon me?
Can we pull one of those up on the screen?
Photos?
Yeah.
Why shouldn't we? I could,
So
if
that-
you want,
So I can put it up on a full pod.
This is the good night. This is the only one that has the lights in India, lights in the sky.
Let's go through pretty quick. We got
Sure.
about 13 minutes.
Okay. There's one. This is like 1975, 76. This is when they came and said, "We're going to tell you where to guess."
This looks like what is it in? Is it in India where they teach about?
Those stupas or whatever.
Yeah, I forget, but that's what they called the UFOs.
They
back then, right?
called them Vimanas.
Vimanas.
Yes.
That's what it is.
Well,
they built temples around the shape of it, right?
Yeah. And that's because the gods of the ancient Indians were extraterrestrials. I mean, it's not that hard, folks. So with this thing, you can see dissimilar metals and fluting along the edges. And these are classic discs. People say, "Oh, it looks like something from a..." Yeah, because they have a lot of different shaped craft, but they use the disc-shaped craft because in our deeper memories, some of our ancestors, maybe a previous life thing, whatever, have seen these craft.
So is he up on a hill here?
It's either the hill or he's inside the craft. I'll show you two photos where we know for sure he's inside the craft.
So they used to take him up in the UFOs, and he could take pictures from out of the window of the UFOs.
Yes. Yes.
Jesus.
Yeah. Now, some of them, they had problems with because of radiations that would affect the film and all. These 3 and 4 of the craft. This is a very famous one that the skeptics tried to say it's a model in front of a tree. And actually, I don't know.
Real quick, Mike.
Yeah.
How could his body, his humanly body, take the G-forces?
There's no G-forces. This is, and our scientists know this. They use a self-generating gravitational field. Otherwise, they'd be splattered.
Yeah.
No, it's like sitting in this room. It's like literally sitting in the room. And this is my webmaster, Melissa. She used a technology fringing to show that the branch is actually in front of the edge of the craft, not the other way around.
So for those listening, the picture says the fringing goes up the branch without any breaks. The blue line is the fringe outline. The green line is the actual branch. If the ship was in front of the branch, there would be a break in the blue line. So it's basically some high-resolution images using color to differentiate that the UFO is behind it. So this isn't faked.
Can we get a narration from you? That's beautiful. He had a series of these photographs. He's sitting on a hillside, and they move the craft.
This is the one where the UFO is literally butted up right up against the tree. Like a quarter of the UFO is sticking inside the branches of the tree. It's like about 20 feet off the ground.
Yeah. Yeah, it's about halfway up here.
And
this
there's
was
a
taken
bunch of these that
inside.
have it like that. And then now I understand why they were doing it. It was for scale.
And this is from inside the craft. And this one is a little more distinct. He's above Switzerland.
So, wow. Okay.
Here, these people did not, they were invited by Billy. "I'd like you to come to this clearing. I want to take photographs." They did not see the craft while it was there. It could go in and out of phase. It could appear just at the point that he's clicking the camera. There's a whole series of them where it's half in and half out. I just wanted to show this one. The guy, one of the people here, I think it's the guy in the foreground, brought the film, loaded his camera, took it out of his camera, and had it developed. This is the crazy-ass one. Okay. The WC UFO. I want to get, maybe this is showing that this is not a model against the curtain. It's hovering above a graveled road, a grassy hillside. It emanates when you put it into Photoshop. It alters the, and you alter the brightness and the contrast. I love
What are
this
those
one.
blue ruby looking things?
These are the
Gemstone
different.
looking
These
things.
function in ways that haven't been satisfactorily. If you look inside the circle around there's a blue lens in there.
Yeah.
Let's see. I just have to do this for you. I hope we have a moment. This is a different craft. The lights were going on and off in broad daylight.
This would be good. Let's play this and then we'll end it off of this.
Okay. All right. You want me to speed it up a little bit so it gets to the...
Whatever you want.
Okay. People can stop this and read it. There's enough there for them.
Yeah.
Billy Meier is in the lower right-hand corner. You can see his partial left arm. There's this thing hovering right next to a tree, several hundred feet away from him. It's not forced perspective. These are actual hillsides, folks. Switzerland's full of them, and there's trees all over the place. He's ostensibly got Quetzal. We saw him before, standing off out of camera range to the left. But he wants to zoom in on this craft so he can see a little better. And we can see a little better. There's one of those trees, a real, bad haircut tree. And this thing, and Billy asks him, "Can you move the craft?" He says, "Nope, not going to make it ironclad for you." So Billy's, and he comes back in. He's going to photograph it with his, because we're going to see, he's going to take a 35 millimeter photo while the video camera, and it's not a digital video camera, it's a totally analog video camera. So there he is down there in the lower right. And he snaps some photos, and there they are, clearer, because he can zoom in better with that. And, what do we have more? Okay, this is when he took those photographs, and the astronaut Gordon Cooper, it takes 1 minute to explain this. Gordon Cooper was an astronaut, the late guy. He was in Russia in 1995, and he's asked about some stuff, and this is what he says about Billy Meier's contacts with the Pleiaren and the quality of his UFO footage.
A similar kind of thing is, let's look at the case of the Swiss. The man in Switzerland who was contacted by extraterrestrials. Meier. Yeah, Meier. I saw the pictures the day after the investigative team went to Switzerland. They know the investigative team very well, and they came to my home, show me all their pictures.
Very fine photos, yes, very fine. I have seen them.
They were absolutely authentic.
Эти фотографии были абсолютно аутентичными.
And yet the whole world is trying their best to make them out to be fake.
There he says it.
What did he say at the end?
The whole world is, try to make him out to be fake, and he says they're real, they're authentic, and yet the whole world is trying to make him out to be fake. Then there was this guy. I mean, I don't know if you have 30 seconds left or not.
Sure.
I'm interrogated for 3 months. You saw it on the film. Can we tell the people we have this film?
Sure.
Film?
This one? You want to put it on?
Yeah. Oh, you mean show it for a second?
Yeah, why not?
I think I can do that.
Do you have the trailer?
I don't know. Let's see.
That would be better. Do you have the trailer?
Yes, I do have the trailer. We have the film.
Okay. Yeah, let's
and-
watch the trailer.
Okay.
There we go.
Is it too loud?
The common portrayal of extraterrestrials as little green men or little gray people is part of a disinformation campaign. I was fascinated by the UFO evidence. It's incredible, unparalleled, authentic. There is nothing here to believe. We're looking for facts. This is about something even more important than UFOs. You're Billy Meier. case is 100% ironclad authentic, I will take on any skeptics on your behalf.
You know, Billy Meier was doubted for many
Sure,
years.
I know
What
that
do you
story.
think about him? The pictures are so vivid, and the Pleiadian story is so vivid.
Otherwise, we are told with certainty it comes in and strikes between the North Sea and the Black Sea. You want to read tomorrow's news? You read Billy's old prophecies and predictions.
In 1953, and this is verifiable, by the way, this is copyrighted, verifiable information of Billy Meier specifically talking about going underneath, being transported in a beam ship, and going underneath the pyramids in a massive underground chamber.
We are told even at that time who set this in motion, progenitors of this disease. Which I would only later come to be able to find that he had published information about the damage to the ozone and atomic energy, indeed, back in the 1950s.
According to Meier, we might as well roll cigarettes with our paper money for those of us that are still smoking.
The agenda is to control everything. The American people will be dispossessed. It's happening now. In 1987, Billy Meier is warning about computer-based weapons. What does that mean? AI.
Well, I think it's an astonishing prediction by Billy Meier.
If your country attacks Iran, there's an enormous likelihood that Russia and China, which are becoming closer all the time, will attack your country.
You can watch UFOs till the cows come home. They're up there watching. These people are really crazy. How did they know the future unless they have time travel? Folks, it's right here. We're not going to have time travel now, but this is the evidence for it that somebody does.
Well,
Thank you.
we got a lot more to talk about, but we'll have to save it for the next one.
Okay.
Sound good?
Yeah.
We'll have to get you back from Arizona.
We'd love to do it. I thank you immensely. You have given us an opportunity. You got right to the heart of the matter. I thought I would just have to go through the UFO stuff, and I can't thank you enough, because that's the stuff we have to show people. They've got to know about it and then decide for themselves. Thank you.
People are so quick to dispel things, and I try to keep an open mind. You know what I mean? It's a great big universe out there, and I think sometimes people lose sight of the fact that we're floating in space in something that is so big. Just our galaxy alone, what is it? It takes like 100 million years just to, if you're traveling at the speed of light, 100 million years to get from one edge of the Milky Way to the next. And we're in an ocean of galaxies that are bigger, some are smaller, though trillions of them. So it's so vast, it's so huge. To think that we're the only ones out here is asinine. Honestly, it's 2020, about to be 2026, and if you're sitting there with everything we've learned about the universe and still thinking that we're the only, species out there, like, wake up,
We're a speck of cosmic lint floating around here.
Exactly.
We have to have some perspective.
In such a brief amount of time too, right? We've been around for a few thousand years. depending on what you believe, maybe 100,000, 200. Some of these civilizations could have been around for millions, some of them billions of years. We don't know. So thank you for coming on the show. It was amazing. I absolutely loved our conversation, and listening to you is so awesome. So let's get you back on here maybe 6 to 12 months, and we'll go through the rest of it. I really want to do more of a deep dive into more of the teachings, the spiritual side of things, and talking about the universe itself, which just talking about the universe itself, I'm fascinated by the universe, but just talking about that, I could fill 2 hours with you just listening to what they taught about it.
I'll have to bone up on it a lot because he's got so much technical information about the different dimensions of the duration of time, how long the universe will live for 47 trillion years. We're in trillions already.
Have you, real quick, last question, have you thought about using any sort of AI program to upload all of the documents so you can do keyword searches?
Well, we have on the blog, we have search engine and an index. It's not the same as having a full-on thing with AI. Could I just show the folks real quickly that thing? And the way we sell the film.
Oh, there you go.
Thanks. And then I'll wave at them with the Talmud. Okay, so in here is a little flash drive, and we put this film on a flash drive. We have a companion drive where we put another film and teachings and all sorts of stuff like that as well. I did it because from studying Billy's thing, AI may already be corrupting a lot of information. I want people to have as much evidence as is incorruptible as possible, and then to have the books. See, that's why they're not putting the books up. Only one book is put up digitally. It's a monumental book, The Goblet of the Truth. If people want to write for that information, all they have to do is email me. I'll send you to the...
What's your email?
Oh yeah. Michael@theyfly.com. Michael@theyfly.com. Oops, stop that. And it just likes to be seen. That's my old website.
Okay.
It goes back. But we have this on a flash drive. We have the teaching one on a flash drive. And the other book that I will just hold up if I may.
Go for it.
This is the man who keeps banging the boom. This is the Talmud Emmanuel with the most detailed information for those who want to check it out, explaining the life of the man that we came to know as Jesus, whose name they claim.
And where can they buy these books?
We have here.
Theyfly.com?
Theyfly.com or the blog. You can see the Talmud Emmanuel up there at the site. We down below that, this is something that's where our shop, this will take you to our shop. This one takes you, I commissioned a comic book in 6 languages about the information foretelling the Apophis asteroid, which they called the red meteor, which NASA discovered 23 years after Billy published the details about it, and that this is going to impact Earth 2029 or 2036 if our scientists internationally don't come together, stop trying to blow each other up, because this thing will do it. Come together and deflect it. Don't try to blow it up. Deflect it, a little nudge here, as we say in the film, and over there. It will miss us. So it's jam-packed with information, the whole thing. And this is one of the most important books ever written.
Awesome.
Yeah.
And then in the reels and everything, I'll put links to his socials. So if you guys want to keep up with them, I got you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Michael. Appreciate you, brother.
My pleasure.
Thanks, everybody.